Canada's story begins long before Confederation, long before Europeans ever arrived. For thousands of years, Canada's Indigenous peoples have lived, thrived, and shaped this land. Their histories are older than pyramids, their cultures as vast as the prairies, and their stories as deep as the northern skies. So let's uncover 56 facts about Canada's Indigenous peoples, facts that tell not just a generalization, but a list that helps broaden our understanding of Canada's Indigenous cultures. 1. Canada recognizes 3 distinct Indigenous groups: First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. 2. Today there are over 630 First Nations communities across Canada. 3. Those nations represent more than 50 languages, from Cree to Ojibwe to Inuktitut. 4. The word Inuit simply means the people. 5. The Métis carry a distinct culture and a flag marked with the infinity symbol, a blend of Indigenous and European roots. 6. Indigenous peoples have lived here for at least 12,000 years. Some evidence says even longer. 7. The Haudenosaunee created the Great Law of Peace, one of the world's first democracies. 8. That great law inspired the framers of the U.S. Constitution. 9. The Cree language is one of the most widely spoken Indigenous languages in North America. 10. Many Indigenous languages are endangered, with only a handful of fluent speakers left. 11. Snowshoes, canoes, and toboggans, all Indigenous inventions. 12. Even the word Canada comes from the Iroquoian word Kanata, meaning village. 13. The fur trade, Canada's first economy, relied entirely on Indigenous trade networks. 14. Hudson's Bay Company posts sat on Indigenous roots and depended on Indigenous trappers. 15. The Métis flag is one of the oldest patriotic flags still used in Canada. 16. Louis Riel, Métis leader, is often called the father of Manitoba. 17. The Métis resisted Canada's westward expansion during the Red River and Northwest rebellions. 18. Inuit created the ulu knife, the kayak, and the kulik oil lamp, all brilliant Arctic inventions. 19. Igloos are real. Snow's insulation keeps them surprisingly warm. 20. The Haida of the Pacific Northwest carved towering totem poles that told history and lineage. Fact 21. The Indian Act of 1876 wasn't just a law, it was Canada's blueprint for assimilation. It defined who was Indian, forced people onto reserves, and tried to erase Indigenous identity itself. Fact 22. Under that same law, whole cultures were outlawed. Potlatches, sundances, powwows, even wearing traditional regalia, all banned. For over 70 years, until 1951, living your culture could make you a criminal in your own land. 23. From the 1870s to the 1990s, over 150,000 Indigenous children were taken to residential schools. 24. Residential schools aim to erase languages and cultures, a system now called cultural genocide. 25. Many children never returned home. 26. Survivors created the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, issuing 94 calls to action in 2015. 27. September 30th, Orange Shirt Day, honors survivors and those lost. 28. Until 1960, First Nations people had to give up their status to vote federally. 29. The Indian Act of 1876, still enforced today, controls many aspects of Indigenous life. 30. Indigenous peoples were barred from hiring lawyers to fight for their rights until 1951. 31. Despite this, Indigenous cultures endured. Powwows, with drumming and dance, remain central today. 32. Drumming is seen as the heartbeat of Mother Earth. 33. Inuit throat singing is a unique form of music, often performed as a playful contest. 34. Smudging ceremonies use sacred plants like sage, sweetgrass, and cedar for purification. 35. Indigenous peoples invented lacrosse, the creator's game, now Canada's national summer sport. 36. Hockey legend Carey Price is of Volcacho First Nation heritage. 37. Buffy St. Marie, a Cree singer, reshaped music with her activism in songs. 38. Alanis Obumsawin, an Abenaki filmmaker, is one of Canada's greatest documentary voices. 39. In 1990, the Oka crisis put Indigenous land rights at the center of Canadian politics. 40. Elijah Harper, a Cree politician, blocked the Meech Lake Accord to stand for Indigenous rights. 41. In 2012, the Idle No More movement mobilized thousands in defense of treaty rights. 42. Indigenous peoples are the fastest growing demographic in Canada. 43. They are also much younger than the Canadian average, shaping the future. 44. Indigenous knowledge is vital in climate science, from Arctic research to forest stewardship. Fact 45. Controlled burns and Indigenous practice are now being studied to prevent wildfires. 46. Traditional diets were diverse: seal and caribou in the north, corn, beans, and squash in the south. 47. Those three sisters crops were farmed together in a symbiotic system. 48. Toronto's name comes from the Mohawk word Toronto, where the trees stand in the water. 49. Nunavut was created in 1999 as Canada's newest territory. 50. The word Nunavut means our land in Inuktitut. 51. National Indigenous Peoples Day is celebrated every June 21st on the solstice. 52. The eagle is sacred in many cultures, symbolizing strength and vision. 53. Wampum belts are not jewelry, they're records of treaties and agreements. 54. The dish with one spoon treaty bound nations to share the land peacefully. 55. Treaties are still living documents, legally binding to this day. 56. Many Indigenous communities still struggle with access to clean drinking water. How the hell is this even possible in 2025? We need our government to do better. If you want to understand Canada, you have to understand this. There is no Canada without its Indigenous peoples. Please like and subscribe for more videos about Canada.